The aim of this tutorial is to show you how to create a remote consensus. Please note that only community officials, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Secretary and EDSI support staff are allowed to set up a remote consensus. From the EDSI Collaborative Portal, http:/portal.edsi.org, log on to your EDSI online account. Select the technical body you intend to create the remote consensus for. For the purpose of this tutorial, we will take EE as our example. Go to the Remote Consensus portlet, which is on the right side of your screen, where all remote consensuses for EE are displayed. From this portlet, you can perform several actions. You can create a new remote consensus. Using the drop-down menu, you can display recent, ongoing and future remote consensuses, past ones, or all remote consensuses. You can also filter by type of remote consensus, either for decision, DEC, or for discussion, DIS. To create a new remote consensus, click on the link Create New. A pop-up window will open displaying all the fields that enable you to create a new remote consensus. The community field is pre-filled by the system with the name of the community under which this remote consensus is created for. It is possible to update this information using the drop-down menu, where all working groups which belong to the selected community are displayed. For the type of remote consensus, the system will offer two options: either consensus measuring, therefore for decision, or for the collection of comments, therefore for discussion. For the purpose of this tutorial, we will create a remote consensus for consensus measuring. The field description is not mandatory. It can be used to provide more information on the remote consensus. For example, TCEE is asked to approve this final draft of ES 202-336 to proceed for membership vote. In creation mode, the status field is automatically set to the status planned and cannot be changed. For the start date, select the date you require the remote consensus to start. The start time will always be 1200 CET. Please note, the start date should be greater than or equal to the current date. For the end date, select the date when the remote consensus will end and when comments will no longer be allowed. The end time will always be midnight CET. Please note, the end date should be greater than the start date. You have the possibility to set a freeze date and a freeze time for the submission of contributions, meaning that TC members will not be able to add a contribution to a planned remote consensus after the freeze date and time. For the status report date, this option refers to the possibility of a weekly status report. The system will ask you to indicate which day this report shall be sent to the TB membership list. When all mandatory fields are filled in, click on the Save button. The system will display a creation confirmation pop-up summarizing the remote consensus properties along with the remote consensus reference, and the portlet will be refreshed. Please note that the announcement of the remote consensus measuring period and the results will be disseminated on the TB mailing list by the system. Now we advise you to refer to the tutorial called How to Add a Contribution to a Remote Consensus.